Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jell live on a Wednesday.
Home day.
Hump day. Big day today. I know everybody is currently tuned in for my live reaction for the U.S. Open Cup between Forward Madison FC and Minnesota United. So I will be giving you a live feed on that.
Here we go.
On in the background. For those of you, we're trying to see if we can get YouTube figured out. So if we did, you can see that I'm rocking my Forward Madison jersey today. Nice, vibrant drip kit here, but have a big
nice
episode.
Drip.
Yeah, nice drip. Exactly. Have a big episode for you today. Going to break down both North divisions due to myself being on vacation this last week. We're going to start cranking out the rest of the divisions. So that way we can still get you that mock draft before the NFL draft, which this recording will come out on Thursday. We are a week away from the NFL draft. So pretty exciting stuff. And we will recap some golf and preview the golf tournament this week. But before we do, Jell, you've got the question of the day today. So I'm excited to hear what you got.
So this is a bit of a two-parter here.
Oh, boy.
And it is a little bit late, I guess. It is Easter related.
Okay.
But given that we had not recorded prior to, or, earlier in the week or right before Easter, figured now it was our easiest chance at it. Okay. So like I said, this is a bit of a two-parter.
Okay.
Part one, and I am intentionally leaving out a very well-known candy here, but I want to do a little Easter candy power ranking.
Ooh, okay.
So 5 options here: Peeps, Cadbury cream eggs, the full size, the bigger ones, the Cadbury mini eggs, which are generally just chocolate, a solid chocolate bunny, and a hollow chocolate bunny. So we'll rank your 1 through 5 here.
All right. All right. Writing it down here. All right. So my power ranking. Do you want me to go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
5 to 1.
5 to 1.
Big
right.
time. Oh, all day. 5 to 1.
Right. Sounds good. So my least favorite of this grouping, it's got to be the hollow bunny, especially if you don't know it's hollow. There is nothing worse than that. You bite into it thinking you're just going to get a huge chunk of chocolate, and you have half of the bunny fall apart on your lap and melt on your shorts. So absolutely worthless there. Number 4.
Strong reasoning. I'll give you that.
Number 4, I'm going to go with the original Cadbury cream egg. I'm not a huge fan of those. They're okay.
Wow.
There's a lot of cream in that. 3 is Peeps.
White hot cream of an 8th grade boy.
3 for me is Peeps. I don't mind Peeps. I actually like if you tear open the bag just a little bit and let them get stale and a little bit hard. That's when I would enjoy a Peep. So
nice hard, nothing wrong with nice hard Peeps.
Yep. 2, you're gonna go with the Cadbury minis, and 1 is that solid bunny. There's nothing better than having just this ginormous chocolate bunny. So that is my ranking.
All right. We have 0 commonalities here for the first time in a while, I feel like. Number 5, I'm gonna go with the Peeps. I think they're disgusting.
It's a love or a hate.
It really is. I mean, it's a sugar coated marshmallow, but the marshmallow doesn't taste like normal marshmallow. It's like, I don't know, it seems sweeter or something. I don't know. It's little too sweet for me, and the texture is unique, but there's a reason that I think Peeps only come out during Easter time, only once a year. It's the same thing with like candy corn. Candy corn's only out during Halloween. Peeps are only out during Easter. Like, you maybe have 1 Peep and I'm good for at least a good year. Number 4, solid chocolate bunny.
Really?
Yeah. I think this stems back to when, as a child, there was a chocolate bunny in the freezer, and
I can see where this is going.
I thought that it was going to be one of like a nougat filled or something, and it was a solid chocolate. It was solid milk chocolate, and I definitely pulled out a tooth trying to
And a boy
trying to knock just the freaking ear off or whatever. So, and I was knocked out I think a molar popped out from that. Cause I couldn't get it with my front teeth. It's because frozen solid. So I'm going to go a solid chocolate bunny is my number 4. Number 3, the hollow chocolate bunny. I like it's nice and festive and, easier to bite. Although in your case, you do bring up a very strong point that it may, unless you're careful with it, it may just like you might end up getting fucking chocolate falling all over your place and shit melts and you got ruined clothes. So I get that, but I prefer it over the solid for those reasons. Number 2, Cadbury mini eggs, just a nice solid candy, easy to eat, good little breakfast food the day after Easter or the morning of Easter. Something that is also great for your Easter egg hunts. Throw 2 or 3 of those into your Easter eggs and you're golden there. And number 1, white hot cream of an 8th grade boy, the Cadbury cream egg.
Come on,
absolute classic. And it's not something I would eat year round, but it's definitely an it's the Easter themed winner in my book. I did leave out, so you may have noticed, I did leave out.
Yeah, the clear cut number 1 Reese's peanut butter egg.
Reese's egg. Reason I left that out. Is it unfair to call that an Easter candy? Because it is effectively the same thing as a regular Reese's cup, just in a different shape. That's why I left it out, because I don't know if it qualifies. Because obviously it would be the number 1 otherwise. It's the greatest. I prefer it over regular cups.
Well, that's where I'm wondering if maybe it does qualify, because I'm no scientist, so I don't know the exact ratio.
I ain't no math magician.
But it does taste better than a regular Reese's. So is there more chocolate to peanut butter ratio in it? Is there more peanut butter to chocolate ratio than their original cup?
I think it's texture. And I think it's the texture of it's just smooth all the way around versus the ridges. I think that's what it is. No, I like the ridges because it makes it easy to like bite, and you can kind of bite around the entire cup and get all that chocolate, which is kind of fun. Can't really do that with the egg. But I think the egg is better too, but I disqualified it because it's the same formula as a regular Reese's, just in a different shape. I think, again, not a scientist here. So,
right. One other candy I do want to throw in to see where it would slide into your power rankings. What about just your good old fashioned classic jelly beans?
I almost threw jelly beans in there, but I wasn't sure if they were necessarily qualified. I think they do. I would say so. I actually really like jelly beans. I might put those at number 2 ahead of the mini eggs. Honestly, probably slide it right behind the cream egg. The cream egg for me just feels like the jackpot. Like I get one of those every Easter. That feels like the jackpot candy, or the bunny. But I probably slide the jelly beans in at number 2. You can get a ton of good flavors in one. Basically like a shot of jelly beans. You can get it's just a burst of flavor.
Yep.
Yeah, I like jelly beans though.
They jump in either at 1 or 2 for me.
You can also literally like taste and like feel the texture of the sugar in between your teeth as you're chewing.
Big time.
Which is kind of satisfying.
Yes. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Be the first thing that pops up. If you want to follow Gel, he can be found at Dasagel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Send us in any questions, comments, concerns you have about the show. More than happy to hit you back or answer your question on our next podcast.
Speaking of on our next podcast, well, I guess also on this podcast, for you that have just been podcast listeners, We are now going on to YouTube. We are actually going to be putting our recordings on YouTube.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
Assuming we have no technical difficulties here. But you can check us out. Hopefully, by the time this episode releases on whatever your chosen listening platform is, please subscribe, rate, and review on those listening platforms. Also, please subscribe, rate, and review on our YouTube channel. Just search Dead Arm Sports, but you will be able to see our live faces, our live reactions on YouTube going forward. Hopefully.
Yeah, if this is working, you can clearly see Gel is trying to burn down his apartment with that nice fire he's got going behind him.
Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno.
Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that review. Get you some sticker swag sent out in the mail for free. Gel, before we dive into the AFC North, what are you sipping on today?
It's gonna be a volume episode for me. I had a ridiculously long day of work and activities after work that I'm ready to just get, a little volume going on. So it's the lattes, but it's not going to be just one bush light here. We're going to be pounding down a couple. We'll get through a couple today.
Sounds like a plan.
Just letting you just a little forewarning for you.
Sounds good. I am taking her a little easy today with a nice raspberry White Claw. So.
Hey, raspberry
when you're drinking claws.
I guess take that over the raspberry tea.
Yeah.
God.
We know. All right, going to start off the episode with the AFC North, and just like the other previous episodes, we're going to go through each team in the division based off of last season's final standings. And we're going to go through and just kind of update you on where the teams stand. I'll go through some key adds, some key losses with the teams. And then we're going to talk about some of the needs and previewing what each team is looking for in the draft that's going to be coming up in a week. So kick it off with the defending AFC North champion Cincinnati Bengals.
Entire AFC. Don't hate on them like that. AFC.
The whole AFC, but the defending champions of the division. Some key adds: Alex Kappa, guard; Ted Karras, guard; Hayden Hurst; Leo Collins. So definitely shored up that O-line that was an absolute sieve at times last year. Lost Trey Waynes, cornerback, but other than that, pretty much running back the same.
CJ Uzomah as well. CJ moved to the Jets, but obviously got that replacement right off the bat with Hayden Hurst. So, and I would, you can make the argument that could be an upgrade.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but that leaves us with the Cincinnati Bengals. Like I said, they shored up that O-line. I think obviously they're still going to be looking for some sort of depth there. Cornerback position for me is a big need as well as the tight end. I think Hayden Hurst, we've seen at times he's flashed, but he's not.
He did. I mean, it was weird. He was really productive in Atlanta, and Cleveland gave him that big contract. And
that was Hooper.
That was Austin Hooper. Okay, Hayden Hurst was in Atlanta. Damn it. Shit.
No, Hayden Hurst came down from Baltimore, though, and he never really got a chance because the next year they bring in Kyle Pitts. So he didn't really have a very productive first year.
Hurst went from Baltimore to Atlanta. Yep. Okay. Yep. Whoops.
So, but yeah, I mean, those are
professional broadcaster over here.
Yes. Those are the positions I think that they're in need of. Like I said, we had talked a month or so back, and before free agency hit, we said that they had a ton of money to spend and needed to get their line going, and they did. So that was huge. Obviously, you're going to take some depth pieces there, but I think cornerback and tight end are two needs for my end, at least.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely really strong at safety with Von Bell and Jesse Bates, but their corners right now, Cheeto Awuzie and Eli Apple, two former NFC East corners that were both very highly regarded, especially as rookies, but never were consistent enough. I would be extremely nervous if I was a Bengals fan going in with those two guys again. Just complete lack of consistency from either of those two guys. So absolutely agree. Corner needs to be, that really needs to be that's definitely a position of need. Again, safety really good with Von Bell and Jesse Bates, but you really the strength of any secondary needs to be those two corner positions, especially the way that wide receivers are right now. And that you really can't touch a receiver without being called for a PI. So you have to have true shutdown corners to be able to counter that. I do really love what they did on that offensive line. All those guys that you mentioned, and they hung on to Jonah Williams to be their left tackle. They did shore up as well with Lyle Collins on the right side. That makes going for Jamar Chase instead of drafting Penei Sewell last year look even better.
Yeah.
I mean, it already looked like I was dead wrong on that. That already was a win, and now it looks even better. What's that?
Said you big dum-dum.
Should have put those into the candy question, dum-dums. Although that's more of just like a bank candy, not really an Easter candy. Yeah. And then Alex Coppa getting him as well from Tampa. So really strong there. I think that their jackpot pick at 31, if this happened, would be Nakobe Dean. If he fell, the Georgia inside linebacker. There's talk of him. He put up the production at Georgia to be a top 10, top 15 pick, but he's just small. And that's what's causing him to fall down a lot of mock drafts. I would be shocked if he fell all the way to 31, but I think that's a major need, is that linebacking core. And if they were able to get Nakobe Dean to kind of shore up that linebacking core, get a complete run stopper and somebody that's just extremely, he's just a tackling machine. That helps every defense. And so I think that would be the jackpot pick if they were able to get him at 31. Otherwise, I would say that first round pick needs to be a corner. And it's a good draft for offensive line, wide receiver, and there's a couple top corners, and then there's also corner depth. So I would say focus on, if Nakobe Dean's there, jump on that. Otherwise, shift your focus to corner for that first round pick. My next question is, how necessary is it to take a running back here to back up Mixon? I mean, we saw Samaje Perine kind of be the number 2 to Mixon, and he had a relatively productive year, but nothing extremely special. They drafted Chris Evans late last year, I believe 6th or 7th round, but he's more 6th. Yeah. So, but he's more of a passing down kind of a, really should be a third back, not necessarily a second back. Do you think it's necessary, to just knowing Mixon's injury history, to get somebody that another young RB2 in there to help with Mixon and take a little bit of workload off of him?
He was relatively healthy last year, but like you said, they've been riding him pretty hard the last couple of years. I think maybe like a day 3 pick on a running back, see if you can maybe find somebody in the 5th, 6th, 7th round just for depth. But like you said, Chris Evans is an okay piece in there for passing. Perine was serviceable last year, but I don't know. It's the Mixon show as long as he's healthy. And I don't know that you can spend a top pick or first or second, third round.
I wouldn't say a first or a second. Absolutely not.
Yeah. But a day 2 pick on a running back, I don't see
even round 3. Yeah. That may be a little high.
Yeah.
Just given that they've got some other needs that are more pressing. I agree with you there.
Yep. Second place in the division, team that was looking up to Cincinnati, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So quite a big change there with Big Ben retiring this offseason. Bringing in Mitch Kiss and Titties Trubisky to take over that starting role. Also brought in Chukwame Okorafor to tackle, Mason Cole, James Daniels, former Bears. So got a little rapport there with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, wow.
That was relevant.
You saw how that worked out in Chicago.
Yeah, something to get you excited about, Steeler fans. Some key losses, Zach Banner and Joe Schobert, former Wisconsin Badger. But
Schobert was good for them, but yeah. They did also, I don't know if you mentioned, they brought in Miles Jack.
Yep.
You did. Yeah.
No, I didn't, but.
Oh yep. Yeah. So they brought in Miles Jack. I mean, yeah, you're going to make that swap. Schobert for Miles Jack. Both also former Jaguars. Jaguars just letting all their talent go. Typical Jacksonville.
But that's all right. They'll sign irrelevant players for big money. So that's all they need to do.
Slot receiver for 21 mil a year for Christian
ridiculous.
Kirk. 4 years, 84, I believe. Moving on to the Steelers.
We'll be talking about him on our tomorrow show, Christian Kirk. But no, Pittsburgh Steelers, I think just shoring up that O-line. And then the big question to me is, when are they drafting a quarterback? Because they need to find a successor. I don't know that successor is Mitch Trubisky. He had a year to sit behind Josh Allen, learn from him.
That was a pretty strong statement. You don't know if he can be no, he's not the long-term solution. No,
Never know.
No way.
Never know. But
you never know.
I wouldn't bet on it, but like I said, he got to learn a little bit from Josh Allen. Josh Allen got off to a slow start in his career. Now he's arguably top 2, top 3 quarterback in the league. So I'm not saying that it's going to take a huge turnaround for Mitch Trubisky. But no, they're going to be.
What's the difference in talent between Trubisky and Josh Allen?
Tons.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I mean, Trubisky can't be their long-term answer.
No, but they signed him in hopes that he could be. But they're going to be taking a quarterback at some point. Is that going to be first round, second round? What do you think there?
I mean, that's their only, I would say that and the offensive line, those are their 2 screaming needs. They're absolutely loaded at linebacker between TJ Watt, Devin Bush, and again, bringing over Miles Jack. I mean, is that may be the best linebacking core in the league? As far as, listen to these names throughout their entire team. I mean, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth, your boy Anthony Miller is their number 3. Najee Harris, the other Watt brother, Derek Watt. I really wish TJ would have, or JJ would have signed there last year. Those linebackers that I mentioned, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, they do probably need a corner with Joe Hayden currently still a free agent. It doesn't sound like I don't think they have much interest in signing him back, but so they could probably use a corner, but their glaring need other than offensive line, which they could probably take in the second, is quarterback. At 20, do you think they can get a good QB? Because I'm not sure they can. And what I'm thinking, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that first?
What qualifies as a good QB?
Oh, okay. Okay, good point. What would be available at 20 realistically? Because I think Malik Willis would be long gone. I think Kenny Pickett's probably going to be long gone. You're sitting there with Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, maybe Matt Corral, although Corral could still go to, in the teens. I have him going in the teens.
Yeah. I
mean, Desmond Ridder, I don't see him as a franchise guy. Can you wait till 20 if you want to grab a QB?
And do you want to trade up for somebody that you don't really know? There's no surefire quarterback in this. So that's why I think they sit tight. And if somebody happens to fall to them, then maybe, I don't know. Like you said, Malik Willis is going to be long gone by then. There's talks of him being in the top 5 now. There's
some people that are saying, rumor that the Lions are interested. I mean, which is absolutely bonkers to me, but
yeah. So we'll see on that. I've seen some mock drafts with Kenny Pickett, but I don't think he's going to
be gone too.
I think he'll be gone at that point. So yeah, at that point, you're looking at maybe a Matt Corral. If he slips a little bit, like you said, Desmond Ridder.
I don't want anything to do with Desmond Ridder. I think that this may be an opportunity. We've seen the Steelers move. They've sent away a first for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they have been aggressive with their draft picks in the past. The Jets and the Giants both have 2 top 10 picks. I think I could see the Steelers maybe making a deal with one of those New York teams to get up into that top 10 if, say, Malik Willis is still out there. I think that's the only way that they draft a quarterback, at least in the first. Because I don't think there's going to be anything worth grabbing at 20.
Yeah, unless they move up a few spots if Kenny Pickett starts to slide. But I don't, like I said, I think the Steelers, if I'm them, I'm just staying put where I'm at right now. If somebody happens to fall, you grab them. Otherwise, take another need and then maybe draft
and
somebody.
see if you can get some. Yeah, I guess, right.
That's where I'm sitting at. Moving into the third team in that division, the Cleveland Browns. They were a team that had made the playoffs the previous year and did not do well last year due to a wide variety of things, but it's mostly the lack of production at the quarterback position. So that's why they went all in and got Deshaun Watson. So got Deshaun Watson.
Serial sex offender Deshaun Watson, allegedly.
Allegedly. Mari Cooper came in from the Cowboys, got Jakeem Grant, the return specialist that's had a pretty solid year last year for the Bears. Their, believe, lone all-star.
That ain't good.
Not great,
Bob.
Key losses. Jarvis Landry's gone. J.C. Treader, Austin Hooper. And
Jarvis hasn't signed yet, though, with anybody else. So do you see
I can't see him
a possibility of him coming back? I mean,
I don't think so.
Look at that wide receiver room right now. I mean, you got Amari obviously as their number one guy, but beyond that, it's your boy Peoples Jones and Anthony
That's
Schwartz.
Your boy.
True. They still do need a Jarvis Landry type, possession receiver. Now they could maybe try to grab that in the draft. I mean, where they're picking round 2 or pick 44 overall, that's the first pick they have in this draft. There's probably going to be a possession type of receiver available there. So maybe that's what they're thinking and say, skip Jarvis. We'll grab a rookie wideout in the second round and to fill that void real quick.
Yeah, no, that's what I think they end up doing. Their track record for drafting wide receivers hasn't been great, but I think
hey, don't now DPJ, come on now.
And we're talking about them drafting a wide receiver. Exactly. And just kind of getting that interior defensive line shored up too at the D tackle position. So obviously you have Myles Garrett roaming around there, but they definitely need to do a little bit more to get some pressure, especially with a lot of the rest of the division having very mobile quarterbacks, very solid quarterbacks. Got to get some pressure up front, stop the run game, and put some interior pressure on that quarterback position.
That's really what's worked for defending a lot of these running quarterbacks is getting having that interior pressure that would force, a Deshaun, a Lamar to have to scramble. And then you've got Myles Garrett also coming after him. So Myles Garrett on the outside gets some interior pressure, and now you're in business there. I guess for me, I don't see any major screaming needs really outside of getting that interior pressure. I mean, they're going to have to get some depth though behind all the guys that right now, they've got a lot of guys signed to a lot of big money. They need some depth though behind those guys. I think I don't see any major starter needs outside of that interior D line. Maybe grab another corner, but their corners are okay. I mean, they're good enough. I think they need to draft for depth, take best player available, and go from there.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And it's a little, like you said, a little scary with Cleveland because haven't had the greatest track record with the draft, but we'll see.
At least with drafting quarterbacks.
Yeah. That is for sure.
We've all seen the jersey with the list of like 30 guys on there. Yeah. So
well, congrats, Cleveland. As long as Deshaun doesn't end up going to jail or anything else coming up, you should have a long-term solution at your quarterback position.
As long as he's not going to jail, you're good.
Yes. Surprising fourth place team in this division last year, the Baltimore Ravens, mostly due to Lamar Jackson being hurt down the stretch and not playing. But
it's not just Lamar. It was also J.K. Dobbins, Gus Bus, Edwards.
Yeah, they had a lot of
Marcus
injuries.
Peters, their other corner. It was insane.
Yes. Some key additions: Marcus Williams, safety; Morgan Moses, tackle; Michael Pierce, Patrick Richard, fullback position. Some losses.
Oh, yeah. Good old fullback.
Yes. Ricard. Alejandro Villanueva retired. Tavon Young, cornerback, is gone now. Baltimore, they're still solid team. Like I said, they easily would have finished third, if not second, last year in this division had Lamar played down the stretch, didn't have those key running back injuries early on. Their running back position was a revolving door for most of the season. So
Ison.
yes. God, what a like so hyped up at the beginning of the season last year for fantasy, and like was a healthy scratch half the time. Gotta love it. But with Baltimore, I don't really see a ton of glaring needs, mostly depth for me. And then just getting that D line going too. That's been their bread and butter the last couple of years, getting a little bit older at that position. So I think getting some youth into the edge rushers, interior defensive line would help out a little bit there. Maybe try and find some sort of, I don't know, wide receiver as well. I mean, you've got Hollywood Brown, you've got Bateman, but I don't know if those are the long-term answers there to help out Lamar Jackson.
I think that I like pretty much everything that you just said there. I mean, I like that D right now, but it is getting old. Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey is your two corners. They've been in the league now for quite a while, for at least, in terms of, for NFL standards. So getting some additional depth there. I do like that front seven, although they need another interior pass rusher. I mean, you saw how big of a difference Haloti Nada, for example, made on Terrell Suggs, same thing, made with that defensive line. They don't have a guy like that right now. They've got Derek Wolfe and Calais Campbell kind of on that, the defensive ends, but there's not really a stud tackle in the middle. And that's been, as you said, their bread and butter. So they need a little bit of help there. Probably could have some offensive line help given that Villanueva just retired, but I think they have a really strong roster. I say for them, best player available, maybe a little bit of a lean towards that wide receiver position, because I do agree with you. I don't know if Bateman can be a true number one, and Hollywood has just constantly been getting hurt. He was really productive last year when he was on the field, but again, he got hurt. He's a slight receiver. It's just kind of what happens with those guys. But for me, I probably go best player available if I'm the Ravens, and that's kind of what they tend to do. So and try to get the steal of the draft. Last year, you could make the argument that Odafe away out of Penn State, as he may have been the steal of the draft. They got him really late in the first round, and he was in talks for that defensive player rookie of the year vote. So I put him. I think that's just what the Ravens do: take best player available and fit him into their scheme. And I think that's what they need to continue to do.
Yeah, no, they're one team that don't really have to worry about when it comes to the draft. They draft very well, and like you said, they kind of sit back and just kind of let the draft fall their way, and most of the time ends up working out for them. That is our AFC North preview. Going to transition over to the NFC side of things, kicking it off with Gels Green Bay Packers. Some key additions. They got Aaron Rodgers back, I guess you'd say. So that was pretty solid.
Key addition.
Well, hey.
Re-signing somebody that's been there for 15 years or.
Yep. Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell.
Would have been a key loss, I guess. I'll give you that.
Yes. Pat O'Donnell coming over from the Bears, the punter. Rasul Douglas, losses. Devontae Adams is a huge loss there. Billy Turner and Zadarius Smith going over to the Vikings. We'll talk about them next. But edge and wide receiver is what I have. Wide receiver needs to be addressed immediately. We'll talk a little bit tomorrow about some of the wide receivers that are currently in the NFL wanting new contracts, and if we see them possibly as a fit for the Packers. But outside of that wide receiver position, they've got 2 picks in the first round, and one of those has to be wide receiver.
I mean, my notes here are pretty short regarding the Packers. I mean, it's pretty obvious their top need is wide receiver. I would say that their next biggest need is, wide receiver. Third biggest need, you could probably put wide receiver, and fourth as well. Focus on fucking drafting wide receivers for the first time, Green Bay. Finally take a fucking wide receiver in the first round. They've never done it in Rodgers' career. They drafted his replacement in the first round. Who was supposed to be his replacement. Too bad Jordan Love sucks, clearly. but they've never taken a wide receiver. What are they going to do? Roll out Alan Lazard as their one? The shitty thing too is you're at 22 and 28. Those are their two first round picks. You're not going to be able to get one of these top guys, Traylon Burks, Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Olavi's probably gone at that point, or may be gone at that point. You may be looking at the fifth receiver off the board at 22. Jahan Dotson, maybe kind of a guy. He's a nice player, but he's certainly, I don't look at him as a number one. I compare him probably similar to like a Rashad Bateman, who we just talked about is questionable as a wide receiver one. So I guess they've got two options here. They can either pair those two picks, move up to around that number 10 spot and get the first receiver off the board, maybe move up to 11 with Washington or something, get that first receiver off the board, pair those two picks and get, that pick and like a fourth or something later, or pair those two picks or send at least one of those picks away for a veteran receiver, guys that we're going to talk about, like you said, on tomorrow's episode, but they have to go wide receiver. Like you said, edge rusher, obviously losing Zadarius Smith, who's been incredibly productive for them over the last few years. Just a cap casualty here with Aaron Rodgers taking up so much of this damn cap. This is why they drafted Jordan Love, was so that they could reset the franchise, be able to expecting Love to be able to be a starting quarterback. And then they could kind of reset the franchise and still be able to afford other players. Now with Rodgers taking up as much cap space as he does, it's now Rodgers, and it's going to have to be Rodgers and a bunch of youngsters. That's the cap casualty, or that's what Zadarius Smith is, a cap casualty here, which is unfortunate because, again, incredibly productive. They need to go edge rush. If they do keep 2 first-round picks, it's got to be receiver first. It's got to be edge rush second. I leave it. That's as simple as I can put it, obviously. And then they definitely need to go offensive line, given that they lost Billy Turner, who was a starter for them last year. Green Bay is really good at developing offensive linemen, at least within their system and their scheme. Generally, I mean, they've taken a lot of 4th, 5th, late round picks. Elton Jenkins was, I believe, a 3rd or 4th, and he's turned into one of the best guards in the league. And so I think the Packers could probably take an offensive lineman in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, maybe grab a couple of them and develop those into future very high-end starting offensive linemen. But first 2 picks need to be wide receiver, edge rush. Totally agree there.
Moving into their rival state over from Minnesota, you got the Vikings, some key additions for them: Harrison Phillips, Jordan Hicks, Zadarius Smith that we had talked about, Michael Pierce leaving the team. Minnesota, I think offensively is pretty set. Maybe grab some depth at the offensive line, but I think defense is where they need to focus on this. Minnesota's defense prior to last year had been pretty solid, and it seemed like they took a little bit of a step back last year. The defense is getting a little bit older, so I think they're going to look to focus on the secondary, cornerback, and safety. And their first pick, I think Stingley is somebody that could end up going there. I've seen his name in a lot of mock drafts from LSU, and I think he'd be somebody you could plug in day one at that cornerback position, and he'd be absolute fire.
It'd be an absolute perfect first round pick. You'd have Patrick Peterson on the other side, another former top LSU cornerback, and I feel like they would just bond right away. Stingley would learn everything possible from Patrick Peterson. And thing with Stingley, he could be, his freshman year, his true freshman year, the year that LSU was absolutely stacked with Burrow, Chase, and Clyde, the likes of Justin Jefferson. Oh my God, so loaded. But Stingley, that was his best year, was Stingley's true freshman year. And then he kind of fell off a little bit his second year. His third year, he had a Liz Frank injury. If you know anything about that, that can be a major foot injury that's really hard to recover from. So it's kind of the fall off from his first year combined with that Liz Frank injury that's forcing him to fall down these boards. I think that if it weren't for that injury, he probably would be a top 5 pick. So if the Vikings with that number 12 overall pick can get Stingley, pair him with Patrick Peterson, that is a match made in heaven for a corner 1 and 2, and eventually Stingley coming in and replacing Peterson as that corner number 1. So I think that is the perfect pick at number 12. My next question is, what do you do with Kirk Cousins here? I mean, or not now, but the future at quarterback, I guess. He's got 2 more. He just signed another 1-year fully guaranteed extension. So you're looking at 2 more years of Kirk. Yeah. Do you maybe take a flyer on like a Sam Howell in a later round?
He's maybe made a second or third bank, by the way. Congrats, Kirk Cousins.
That dude has he has done so damn well all 100% guaranteed contracts since he got that first franchise tag with, at the time, the Redskins. That's how long ago that was. That was like before we even started talking about a name change being necessary. He's been having fully guaranteed contracts for like 6 years now.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins, he's just so difficult because he shows at times he can win you games, but then just in big games sometimes just shits his pants too. So it's tough. I mean, there's a ton of teams in the NFL. They're at way worse situation at quarterback than the Vikings. So I don't know if you're going to take a day 2 pick on a quarterback at this point. I mean, last year they got the guy.
They drafted Kellen Mond last year. The coaching staff was way out on him. And we saw the week that Cousins was out because he didn't get vaccinated. He was on that COVID list. They started whoever that Sean Mannion.
Yeah.
Who for God damn it. Of course, Brian Greasy has a hard on for Sean Mannion because he's a useless broadcaster. So glad he's gone. God.
Yeah. But if I'm the Vikings, I think I'm just rolling with Kirk Cousins again. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to draft a quarterback unless somebody happens to fall. I don't think you're going to see Sam Howell fall to them at all. And outside of that, there really isn't any deep quarterbacks at all this year that I think are going to do anything in the NFL. So I'm not looking to go and draft a quarterback if I'm the Vikings. Just roll with Kirk Cousins. It's worked for you. You've made the playoffs a couple times with him. So there's no reason why you can't make a deep run if some of the other guys stay healthy and their defense takes a step up. So I think that's their biggest need. Just need to focus on that defense, get that short up. Going to move over to the Chicago Bears, my beloved Chicago Bears, who have been absolute trash lately, but here's to hoping for a nice turnaround. Added Aquemius St. Brown, Byron Pringle, Lucas Patrick from the Packers, the center, and key re-sign for them too. Patrick Scales, the long snapper, has been solid towards the end of his career right now, so had to give him a little bit of a shout out. I think long snappers. I think that if there was the Patriots long snapper that was there for like 24 years. I think you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame if you've been there, if you've been on one team for that long and not been like that. That's the same argument to make for like Frank Gore, why he should be a Hall of Fame running back. Longevity. Yeah. It's not like Frank Gore's ever been the best running back in the league, but he's probably going to make the Hall because he's been there for so long and he's number 3 in rush yards because of longevity. I think you can make the argument to put a long snapper in there. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Some key losses for the Bears: Tariq Cohen, Eddie Goldman, Khalil Mack, and Allen Robinson. Moving on from him.
Your boy. Hey, Rob.
For the Bears, O-line, and wide receiver. Those are my 2 big things. They've got pretty solid some pieces at defense to build around that are younger. You got Jalen Johnson and Roquan Smith. So I like those pieces to build around for the defense.
Eddie Jackson has been, he's been their best. Outside of Roquan, I guess, Eddie Jackson's been, he's been really solid.
Yeah. But wide receivers, a huge piece too. The Bears do not have a first-round pick at all this year after giving that over to the Giants to move up in the draft last year for Justin Fields. So they're going to be looking to second round at the earliest. They did pick up a second round pick this year with that Khalil Mack trade. So can see about that and see what they end up doing with the second round. But wide receiver is huge. I mean, Darnell Mooney, love him, but he's a complementary piece to somebody else. He's a deep threat. He's not somebody that I see as a wide receiver one at all. I mean, I think he could be like a 1B, but he's not a 1A, and they need to bring somebody in to be that 1A.
I totally agree there. Now, with that being said, would you pair those 2 seconds to move up to, say, pick early 20s to grab a receiver if there's still one out there that you like?
If somebody falls, yes, but they need a lot too. So I'm fine with them keeping those to get some of the depth pieces.
Get a little extra.
Wide receiver, we've seen in the past couple of years too. There's been some solid wide receivers you can find in the second round. Debo was a second round pick. I believe
Debo, DK, AJ Brown.
So those are some pretty
second
good
rounders.
names. So you can definitely find some guys in the second round. Somebody I've seen in mock drafts that I wouldn't mind. I think he'd be a good compliment with Darnell Mooney's George Pickens. So George Pickens has been moving into the second round.
Nice.
So that might be somebody that they could look to just to throw in there. So somebody,
he without that injury, he would be probably graded as a first round wide receiver. Without that, he came off that ACL and he played great in that. In the bowl games, in the national championship game, caught a really nice deep ball that made him look like, this guy could be a wide receiver one in the league. So if you can get him in the second round, that'd be a great compliment to your boy Mooney.
Yeah. Anything else you see for them in the draft?
No, I agree. Offensive. I mean, they need to just, they have to focus 100% on helping Justin Fields. And the easiest way to do that is protect him and give him weapons. So completely agree. Offensive line and receiver, and hopefully Cole Kmet can get going and be productive, because it looks like he can be the right piece, a right tight end, but we just haven't seen the production.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. And it's going to be coming up on his third year in the league. So hopefully you can see
this is time to break out.
Moving on to the perennial fourth place team in the NFC North, got the Detroit Lions. Some key adds: Tracy Walker, safety; DJ Chark Jr.
DJ Chark.
Some other key wide receiver additions that they re-signed, I should say, is Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds coming back, and some losses, just pretty much Trey Flowers on the edge. So with Detroit, I mean, that
number 2 overall
receiver,
pick.
Number 2 overall pick. They got to go edge, I think, on that. I think you got to draft defensive end, whether that's Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau from Oregon. Otherwise, I mean, is this the draft where I could totally see Detroit, like you had said a little bit earlier on in the episode, going with Malik Willis here at 2 and just doing something Detroit does and reaching for picks. And I mean, Jared Goff is there under contract this year, so Malik Willis kind of fits that bill with the quarterback that you could have sit and learn for a year and throw him in. I don't know if I like that situation at all for him in Detroit.
I know that I don't. He's because he's going to be, they're going to, that the way that ownership is, they could have all the intention in the world to say, okay, Malik, you're going to be sitting the entire season and it's going to be Goff's team the entire year. But Goff's going to be 1-5 through 6 weeks, and they're going to want to throw Malik Willis in there in week 7. That's how it's going to happen. So I think that's for an underdeveloped quarterback. Is there anywhere worse to go than Detroit? I mean, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson, but that offensive line and the offensive line, I mean, you got Penei Sewell there, but you have no defense. And it's just an organization that has been a dumpster fire for, oh gosh, how many decades? How many fingers? 10 fingers, 10 decades. I mean, it's been forever since they've been relevant. So that's the worst situation for Malik Willis. I think I agree with you. I go edge there. They have to, I would cross my fingers if I were them. and hope that Aiden Hutchinson is there. I would very strongly consider seeing if the Jags would be willing to move back one spot. You give them an extra third or something so that they can get Aiden Hutchinson, so that they can go grab him, because that's obviously a huge need for the Lions. They need a true, leader of that defense. And I think there's no truer leader that's available defensively than Aiden Hutchinson. So do you throw that number 2 pick in an extra third or maybe even a second if the Jags are like, no, screw you, and if you throw a second at him, move up one spot, get Hutch, and then you've at least, you've got a very solid player. Also, obviously, Hutchinson played at Michigan as a Wolverine.
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, it's kind of tough too, because obviously Jacksonville is going to know what you're trading up for. So then it gives them a little bit of leverage. And
that's why I'm saying you might have to end up giving up a second as well, which would be painful.
So I don't think I could do that. I mean, if it was a first and a fourth, first and a third, maybe, if that's what you ended up having to go jump up and grab Hutchinson.
What did the Bears give up in the trade with the Niners to move up one spot to get Mitch? I mean, you could maybe make a trade similar to that. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but I believe
remember, but I thought they had to give up a first.
I think it was a first, a third, and a fourth, or something like that
to move up one spot. But at that time, you would have to imagine, with no quarterback off the board yet, San Francisco was probably getting other offers, or the Bears at least thought they were getting other offers. So that's probably why they had to give up so much to move up that one spot. Or I don't know, for an edge rusher, if that's going to be the cost there, but I'd kick the tires on it at least, or at least maybe you got a buddy or two in Jacksonville's system that'll tip their hand a little bit and be like, see what way they're leaning or something like that. Try and get some feelers out. But no,
there's also those rumors of Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. He's been flying up draft boards, and there's talks about him maybe going number 2. He was a 5-star out of high school, made the all SEC freshman team back in 2019. He's got all the traits to be an awesome edge rusher, but he doesn't necessarily have the college production. So it's like, if you're Detroit, how do you weigh traits versus, really solid traits that Trayvon Walker has versus middle of the road production? It's just a really hard, that's a really hard debate that every team, I guess, has to, especially when you're drafting high, has to go through. So I say kick the tires and see if you can get up to that one spot and guarantee yourself Aiden Hutchinson.
Moving on to golf. Before we jump into the RBC recap here, just have a news piece, and then I've got a little little golf story time. So got a new match coming up. I don't have the details, Jell. You had mentioned it, other than it's going to be Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. So got kind of the older quarterback legends versus the new and upcoming quarterbacks, I guess you'd say. So
interesting that they just decided to kick out the golfers. They said, let's just go all quarterbacks here, because it had been in the past Phil and first year, it might have been Phil and Tiger when they first did the match. Yeah. And then it was, and then last year was Brooks and Brady, I don't know. It was Brooks and Bryson. Brooks and Bryson were the golfers, the PGA Tour players. And then it was Brady, Rodgers as the, their pairs. So interesting. They just kicked out the PGA Tour guys, and they said, hey, why don't we bring in a, I don't think this is going to happen, but potential NFC Championship weekend matchup here of Brady Rodgers in the NFC and Mahomes Allen in the NFC, or at least, they've matched up in the NFC NFC and AFC championship games before. So kind of thought that was an interesting little switch up there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those have been pretty fun to watch for the most part. So I've enjoyed it. It's kind of cool just to get a glimpse into the quarterbacks and getting them out of their comfort zone, you'd say, at playing football, and putting them out onto the golf links in front of quite a few people watching them golf.
They must, it draws ratings. I watch every time it's on, and they wouldn't be holding these events if it didn't draw ratings. So must be doing pretty good. As far as if you're already looking into the gambling odds, such as yours truly,
shocker.
Brady and Rodgers are the very heavy favorites here. Yeah. I think that makes sense. I mean, they've had more time in their lives to hit the links. So I know Rodgers has a membership at the private course up in the country club up in Green Bay. And him and Brady have both played obviously in this before. So they're the heavy favorites. Be interesting. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes doesn't necessarily strike me as a great golfer just because he's just a little unorthodox, but he also did play baseball at Texas Tech until he focused 100% on football. So he's probably got a mad swing, and Josh Allen is just a big ass dude that grew up in California. So he's probably got a lot of courses around him, and he's obviously an athletic freak. So this may be just, old guys with their nice, well-rounded game versus these youngsters that can just absolutely pound the shit out of the ball. We'll see, but I'm kind of excited for it.
Yes. One of the golfers you had mentioned that was in the last match, Brooks Koepka, is the feature of my story today. So I was on vacation visiting some family this last week down in South Carolina, and my cousin Jack this is kind of a story of a friend of a friend. So this is all alleged, but
take it for what you will, I guess.
Take it for what you will. But one of his good friends from college was working in the players' locker room at Augusta National for the Masters, and he looked out the window after the second round to see Brooks Koepka standing by his car, taking each club out of his bag one by one and snapping it over his leg.
That seems quite Brooksian.
Yeah,
that's about right.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny and shows what you can do as a pro, because I would be crying if my clubs all snapped, because I would be going down to the local Goodwill to find another set.
Yeah, right. No, he'll get a free set sent to him by
he probably already has a ton already.
Oh, so. I'm sure. Yeah, that's freaking great.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I can't imagine just looking out the window and just seeing a golfer just individually grabbing one club, snap, another club, snap.
To be that angry to grab every single one and snap them all. And then that he just left them on the ground right. In the parking 100%. Lot for somebody else to pick up.
Yeah, big time.
That is phenomenal.
From the green jacket to the red buffalo plaid jacket, Jordan Spieth got to put on that this week at the RBC down in Hilton Head. Jordan Spieth with a massive Sunday run.
South Carolina. You were there.
South Carolina. I was just a little bit north in Charleston, but had a epic Sunday run that capped off with him beating out Patrick Cantlay in the playoff. And yeah, that's what you'd said it today, Joe. Back-to-back Easters now for Jordan Spieth with a win. Won Valero last year, the week before the Masters, and like you had said, the Masters is Easter next weekend. So can he three-peat on Easter?
I mean, he didn't play particularly well this year. He was all right. Not great, Bob, but he's won a green jacket before. I don't know, little foreshadowing here. I think he may need to be an early favorite for next year's Masters. Is that taking it a little too far? Or could you see that coming, that shit going down?
Yeah, I think it's too early to tell right now, because we've seen him in streaks throughout his career, but he's definitely been playing well the last 2 years.
Warm beer chug, 12 months out.
Yeah. Lock it in.
Guess you take the field, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I don't think that really necessarily has anything to do. It'll be a fun thing that people bring up next year, and we'll probably forget about 6 months from now, but be reminded a week before the Masters.
Spieth wasn't aware of it either. Dottie brought it up in the at post-match or post-tournament interview, and he's like, "Oh, sweet."
But no, that was pretty much it for me. As far as our picks go,
that's what we need to really talk about.
Yeah, Shane Lowry finished one off of the lead at a nice -12. And as my streak continues, my golfer has been shitting the bed. Matthew Fitzpatrick had been playing well coming into the tournament this week and put up a +3, did not make the cut. So you gained a solid whopping 15 strokes on him this week. I am not happy about it. So we'll see what happens this week with the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Anything else from the RBC before we move to New Orleans?
I just have to ask, where does this leave us on our overall here? I think, is that a 31 shot ish, something around them?
Are you really going to make me read this?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I am pulling it up now. You
right,
are
well,
on the season -109, and I am at -77. So that would be 32 shots.
Not great, Bob.
Shot
for you. Yeah, what do we say? What do we say? A stroke per beer?
No.
For the, or a beer per stroke?
Absolutely not.
Let's go.
All right.
Moving to the Zurich.
Zurich, yes. So this is one of the few tournaments like the match play. It's a little bit different format. So it's played at TPC Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans. Mark Leishman, Cam Smith, the Aussie duo, are the defending champions from last year. The key feature with this tournament, not only are there a lot of alligators on the course, they played best ball on Thursday and Saturday, and then switch over to alternate shot on Friday and Sunday. So they alternate.
So cool.
Best ball, alternate shot, little resemblance of the Ryder Cup, President's Cup action. Golfers get to pick who they're paired up with. So you get some interesting combos. You get some fun matchups here. There've been some cool winners in the past that have kind of come out of nowhere. So it'll be a fun tournament to watch. And anything in particular you're looking forward to? We've seen this field since they've switched it over. I think it's been 5 years now that they've run this type of format for the Zurich Classic, and it started off where there wasn't a ton of big names playing in it, but as we've moved on, there's been more and more bigger name golfers that are coming in and teaming up to take their shot at the championship.
I mean, as far as what I'm looking forward to is the number 2 and number 3 players in the world, Colin Morikawa and Victor Hovland, on one team.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's insane. I don't know. Assuming that they, they're coming off of, both not playing extremely well as of over the last 2 tournaments, but they've been in contention in previous tournaments all season long. There's a reason they're the number 2 and number 3 players in the world. And obviously the major heavy favorites when it comes to any sort of Vegas odds. So I guess I could see them absolutely dominating here, obviously, but playing together, I question where their motivation might be. I mean, it's like in terms of just, individual motivation, just because you're playing with, they're both playing with the other best player in the tournament. So are they going to have the same sort of I got to go out and nail this shot? Or are they going to be if I screw this up, if Colin's out there, I screw this shot up, I know I got Vic to back me up, or vice versa. So I am very interested to see how they play as a team, but I don't know. We haven't, like you said, last year was Leishman and Cam Smith. Cam Smith has been playing really well. Obviously, Masters finished in the top 3, actually. So I could see Leishman and Cam Smith also playing again really well, definitely as the defending champions.
No, absolutely. Before we get into our picks here, Joe, do you have any odds? Anybody you're looking to throw some coin down on this weekend?
I can't. It's too expensive to throw down on Morikawa and Vic Hovland for me to personally bet on them, just because if they don't win, then I'm out a good chunk of money. But at the same time, I'm not putting down any money on anybody else because I think that they should win this tournament. So it's too hard for me to bet on this tournament just because of that. It's too expensive to bet on the heavy favorite. But not good enough of a payout to bet on some of these other teams.
Sounds good. All right, so we'll get into our picks here before we wrap up the show. If you're new to listening to our show, first off, thank you for finding us and listening to us. We're about an hour and 4 minutes in, so obviously you like the podcast enough to listen this far, so appreciate it. But what we've been doing here is every week, starting with the Century Tournament of Champions, Joe and I have been picking a golfer, and we're just pretty much taking their strokes to par. So whatever they shoot in that tournament, that's what your score is. And we're just kind of keeping a running total. If they miss the cut, whatever they finished at prior to the cut, that's what they're writing down. So we are going to just kind of keep doing this through the Tour Championship and going to kick it off. So once you use a golfer, you cannot use them again. And you also cannot use the same golfer as your opponent for that week. So I am losing big time right now, so I will go ahead and make my pick. It's kind of tough this week. I have already used Morikawa and Victor Hovland, so that duo was off the board for me this week. I don't know that I would have picked them. There is a team that I like a little bit better, and it's somebody that has had a lot of success in this tournament, had a couple different partners the last few years, and the partner that he's teaming up with is on an absolute hot streak right now. I am rocking Scotty Scheffler and Ryan Palmer. Scotty Scheffler, number one golfer in the world, and just absolute money right now, on fire. Did take this last week off, but he's already won 4 tournaments this year. And Ryan Palmer's been on a winning team in the last couple tournaments here and just had success making it into the top of the leaderboard here too. So I really like that pairing. Scotty Scheffler obviously has got some success here playing in the Ryder Cup last year with this format, best ball and alternate shot. So I like this duo to make some noise here and hopefully help me climb back into this competition, Joe.
It's a great pairing. I love that. Obviously Scheffler is on a historic run that of all historic runs. And that's really nice. And like you said, Ryan Palmer, he's been playing pretty strong golf as of late, especially. So yeah, that's a really nice pairing. I would say that you could probably put them as the number 2 favorite behind Morikawa and Hovland, unless you want to go Leishman and Cam Smith just as defending champs. But you could say Palmer, and the way that Scheffler has been playing, that could be the number 2, team out there. I'm going to go a little off the board a little bit, or not necessarily off the board. This team did finish 14 under last year, which ended up tying for 17th. They have a weird way that they score this. So T17 isn't necessarily representative of how these two finished last year, but the pairing of Max Homa, Taylor Gooch. I almost took both of those guys earlier this year, but Homa got off to such a strong start this season. Hopefully now we're past the Masters and he can get kind of back on that train. And Taylor Gooch hasn't been able to put 4 full rounds together yet. He's had a couple tournaments where he's put together 3 really strong rounds, but just had one complete, one round where he just ends up just shitting himself. So maybe having Homa there to help him out in case Gooch does start playing like garbage, that'll help out Gucci. And so I'm going to go Homa and Gooch.
Nice. I
the
like
Goochinator.
The Goochinator. Oh gosh. Not even going to go there. All right. That'll wrap up this episode here. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Be the first thing that pops up. You can find Gel at Das Gel. I can be found at Das JPEG. Send us in some questions. We'll be sure to answer those on our next podcast, or else if you need something quick, hit us back. Drafts next week. Rookie drafts are going to be coming up for those of you in Dynasty. So if you have any questions regarding your rookie draft, send them our way. We'll be more than happy to answer those. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that review. Get you some sticker swag in the mail. And like Jella touched on earlier in the episode, fingers crossed that you are seeing our beautiful faces right now on YouTube. So check us out there as well. Jell, where can they listen to us at?
Hit us up on our presenting sponsor, Anchor. on the web at anchor.fm, on your app, just by searching Anchor on the Apple App Store or on Google Play. It allows us as podcast creators to also present this to you for free. Pretty sweet little perk there. Of course, we do all of our editing on there, put in, we're able to get in all the little sound effects that you podcast listeners get the pleasure of listening to. And again, that's all free. Also allows us to present this to you for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Pods. Make sure on whatever your chosen listening platform is, you subscribe, rate, and review. Take a screenshot of that written review, send it to us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports on Instagram or Twitter, or on our Facebook page just by searching Dead Arm Sports. With that screenshot, you will get some free Dead Arm Sports sticker swag.
All right. Appreciate everybody out there listening. If you could tell a friend about our podcast, help us out, spread the word, get you even more content headed your way. Be much appreciated by Jell and I. We'll be back with you on Friday to break down the AFC and NFC South divisions, have a little bit of news for you as well in regards to football. So looking forward to diving into that division, and it'll be 3/4 of the way through our divisional previews. And again, appreciate everybody out there listening. Joe, close us out.
Chance, acid rapper, soccer, hacky sacker, cocky, khaki, jacket, jacker, Green Bay Packers. Boo. It's a Chance the Rapper line. Shit. I gotta turn this recording off, I guess.